All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Big Data and AI webinar series. We hope that you are all safe and healthy, and we thank you for joining us today. New webinars are hosted every Thursday where we discuss strategies, solutions, and emerging technologies in the data and AI space to help educate and advance the industry. Today, we'll be focusing on rethinking privacy in an AI-driven world, and our speakers will be addressing potential concerns and solutions on the topic. Our speakers today are John Hill, Country Manager from IMSM, who's joined by Paul Fitterer, who will be addressing your questions after John's presentation. After John, we have Olivera Zatezalo. She's a Chief Security Officer for Huawei Canada. And lastly, we'll be joined by Maciej Hryniewicki, sorry, Maciej, who is the Manager of Consulting and Deals in AI at PwC. If you have any questions for our presenters today, we ask that you put them in the Q&A tab. This tab is located on the right-hand side beside the chat tab. So please don't put your questions in the chat tab because we may not be able to filter through and see your questions and we might miss them. Questions are addressed at the end of all presentations, but please put your questions in as we go along in order to get them in for lots of time so that we see them. If the speaker has addressed your question before we ask it, we will skip your question. If we don't get to your question today, questions will be submitted to all of the speakers, and they will have the chance to answer these questions for us to distribute to the audience. We will be taking no breaks today. We'll go for the full hour, but don't worry about missing anything because our webinar is recorded. A link for the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants sometime next week, along with the survey for the webinar. We do ask that you take the survey and let us know how we're doing. Also to let us know about any topics that you would like us to address in the future and any issues that you are currently facing in your industries. So we will start to kick this off now. So first up, as I said, we have John Hill, Country Manager from IMSM. Hi, John. How's it going?
Fantastic.
All right. So we're going to pull up your slides here real quick, and you can get started. Go ahead, John.
Well, thanks everyone for being with us here on Thursday. With AI being used in cybersecurity, information security specialists are now starting to spout terms like cognitive computing, machine learning, and deep learning. So this seminar isn't just for people that are IT specialists. Every business, every individual who has access to a computer use AI and expect their data to be safe. So on this slide, you can see examples, several examples, of insufficient information security being practiced, or shall we say, not practiced. I myself got compromised by being a customer of 3 of those breach companies on this page. To me personally, cybercrime and rogue AI have been a real pain. For breached companies, like the ones that are shown on this page, think about the knock-on effect, the loss of client confidence, lots of downtime, costs relating to IT hardware, software, infrastructure, and damage control consultants, regulatory fines, lawsuits, and the list goes on and on. For example, in 2019, these are very, very recent survey results, the average total cost of a data breach in Canada was almost $4.5 million per occurrence. And the average time to identify and contain a breach was 241 days. The good news? Reports show that, although the consequences of data breaches are severe, there are concrete ways organizations can mitigate costs and potentially improve their overall security posture, as long as they are willing to admit that deploying AI will be a panacea fix. In some ways, deploying AI can be a bit like opening a Pandora's box. So here we have the key benefits of ISO 27001. Strong information security systems are required and expected. Every one of us have had a credit check on our personal finances before we can get loans and credit cards. Well, ISO 27001 acts like a credibility check, a business credibility check. Clear external commitment to information security is another benefit. It's third parties and stakeholders that are interested. Compliance. ISO 27001 helps you comply with legal requirements and regulations. And the ISO 27001, bar none, is the best practice. It keeps an organization ahead of the evolving risk environment that AI, cyberspace, and the web presents. Lower costs, incident resolution, data breach implications. So now you're wondering, how much does all this cost? And how long will it take? Well, I can't speak for the world, but I can speak for the people that I'm associated with, International Management Systems. They've been around since 1994. We ask people to allow between 6 and 12 months or more for larger multi-site organizations. It can also take less depending on your readiness and the size of your business, because one size does not fit all, as we'll see later in the slides. How much resource time will it take from my organization is another common question we get asked. Fortunately, our experienced consultants typically take 70 to 80% of the workload on themselves, thus lessening your workload. In 2019, global surveys indicated that of the organizations who used an ISO 27001 management security system, reported that 75% felt that it reduced business risk, and 80% believed that it inspired marketplace trust in their organization. So here we have the adoption drivers. Who typically is interested in seeing your organization adopt ISO 27001? It comes from within and it comes from without. Globalization, we're living in a very small world right now. And so because of globalization, it's so important to have some kind of a management system for your information security. Sector trends, market trends, skills and experience. The government sometimes requires you to be ISO 27001 before you can do work for them. Regulators, investors, your partners, and your insurance. Because what you're really telling people is you are a lower risk business to deal with when you have a properly implemented and certified information security management system. So it goes right from the supply chain, right through your whole organization and into your clients. Every one of those people on this page are drivers for the adoption of ISO 27001. So here's an interesting page. You have all these things, almost like balls in the air that you have to juggle. When an organization decides to build or renovate their information security, there are many internal and external factors to consider. An information security specialist has to choose which are the best information security tools to deploy. It seems like information security has an alphabet soup of tools. For instance, some are AI, SOC, SOC 2, PCI, DSS, COBIT, PIPEDA, HIPAA, EU GDPR, in Canada, CyberSecure, in the United States, Cyber CMM, and on the list goes. Dealing with them can drive people crazy. To illustrate, when construction contractors go into a new build or renovation, they keep their tools organized in a toolbox. You would never see them walking into a project carrying armfuls of loose tools. They could lose track of items and key steps might be missed. Similarly, ISO 27001 does not replace information security tools. However, it makes it easier to use the tools. It is the toolbox to keep all the information security tools organized. The ISO 27001 standard was developed from contributions by selected technical committees from around the world, including right here in Canada. The International Standards Organization, known as ISO or ISO, is a global think tank that now boasts over 2 million organizations that use one or several ISO standards in their operation. Frankly, each ISO standard is a gold standard. So what is ISO 27001? It's an international standard for information security management systems. It's created to protect the information of an organization from security threats, such as viral attack, misuse, theft, vandalism, terrorism, fire, pandemics. It helps the whole organization be accountable for information, putting systems and processes in place to guard against the risk of security breaches or misuse of information. The Information Security Management System aids in the identification and classification of the organization's information assets and a systematic risk assessment of threats and vulnerabilities. ISO 27001 provides a framework to assure an organization that its information security measures are effective. So we see many controls here on this slide. There's 114 controls. Notice, though, that only 37% relate to IT. Does an IT cyberspace policy or procedure ask if the front door has been locked at night? Probably not. Does ISO 27001 ask? Absolutely. So it goes from information security policies to organization of information security to human resources security, asset management, access control, cryptography, physical and environmental security, operational security, communication security, system acquisition, development, and maintenance, supplier relationships, information security, incident management, information security aspects of business continuity management, which is huge, and compliance. And again, just to illustrate, you have cybersecurity. That's a little oval in that picture, but then you have information security that covers, yes, cybersecurity, but it touches on many, many more aspects of your business. So information security maintains the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information, generic information. Drilling down, cybersecurity protects data in electronic form from being compromised or attacked. So you see the difference. One is specific to electronic, the other is information as a whole. So we see here from the ISO 27001 standard itself, a quote, "The information security management system preserves the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information by applying a risk management process and gives confidence of interested parties that artificial intelligence, cyberspace, and internet risks are adequately managed. Establishing meaningful information security must first understand the internal and external forces pushing on the organization's information security requirements that are already exist with their already existing safeguards." With 114 controls that are attached to ISO 27001 information security management, here's a word of caution. An organization must use an ISO 27001 gap assessment to generate a statement of applicability that serves to match the standard to their unique situation, to avoid wasting time and money by trying to force certain ISO 27001 controls into their organization that actually don't fit them at all. A couple of more survey results. When some surveys were published, information security industry specialists say that the requirements of ISO 27001 covers between 75 to 100% of all IT security and cybersecurity requirements. Remember that alphabet soup of requirements we listed earlier in the presentation? So, putting in place the ISO 27001 management system may be all that you need. If you need to establish more information security requirements, it will be a shorter journey if you have ISO 27001 already in place. But at the very least, the ISO 27001 toolbox will save a lot of time and money implementing or maintaining the information security tools that are essential to your organization. So just a little bit about us. I can't speak for the whole world of business consultancy, but from my association with International Management Systems, I've been with them now since 2001. Since 1994, they're throughout the world offering independent outside set of eyes and hands to help organization match ISO standards in a way that accomplishes more in less time and less frustration. It's an end-to-end service. It's not just boilerplate templates, but everything's customized, and we write the policies and controls and procedures for people. The consultancy end of it is advising regarding ISO standards, the roadmap, and the certification options. Then the implementation is building a robust management system for you. Again, we build it for you, so you don't have to spend time writing procedures and protocols and controls. Of course, we need your input, but we will do all the documentation for you. The training. We train your staff in system maintenance. In the internal audit, what's that? A management review meeting on security issues. What's that? Well, we train you on that. Managed services. Sometimes you get into the information security and you just don't have time to keep up with all the balls in the air. So if you need somebody part-time, or if you need a hand, a partner that you can call in occasionally when you have overload situation, give us a call and we'll be there for you. Migration. The standard itself changes, updates, improves for people. We will help you along those different transitions and revisions. And finally, supply chain assessment. We provide independent assessment, even of your supply chain, if you ask us to. So here's a typical flow chart of the steps, the dance steps to full ISO 27001 certification. You see there's a lot of, at the start, orientation and training, and then we do an assessment, and then a statement of applicability, a gap analysis report. All that's included to understand where you are. Then we have to understand where you want to go to. Each company has different goals and objectives for their information security. We'll match up what the standard needs, what you have, and what you need, and put together a system that's robust and embedded in your organization. Then there's no sense of having a wonderful recipe book if nobody knows how to use it. So we'll train key staff members on how to use information security management, not only during the implementation, but also on into maintaining it forever and ever, even after certification. We present the completed documentation, go over it, verify it to make sure you're happy with what we've done for you. After you're happy with it, we send it off. There's a document review offsite at the certification body of your choice. They come back, okay, we're ready to come in and do a full ISO 27001 certification audit. Some charge more, some charge less, some take more time, some take less time. So whatever's appropriate to your situation, we try to match you up. So just one thing, a lot of people are asking now about this 27701, the GDPR. What is that? What are those things? Well, it's a general data protection regulation that came out of the EU, but quite frankly, it's affecting the whole world. The 27001, which we've been talking about, is about integrity. It's about availability, and it's about confidentiality of information. The 27701 adds privacy. So put those two together and you have the basis for your GDPR. ISO 27701 has additional information security requirements beyond 27001 to establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve a personally identifiable information, PII. ISO 27701 supports the rights of personal data subjects, the right to be informed, the right to have your data deleted, data portability, but we'll need ISO 27001 as a precursor. ISO 27701 aims to blend existing information security practices with PII and privacy-specific controls, recognize overlap between different privacy laws, and reduces complexity, builds evidence-based privacy program, and demonstrates compliancy through third-party certification, and serves as a basis for a potential GDPR compliance mechanism. So that's a little bit about where 27701 is needed along with 27001 in order to have the basis for GDPR. So IMSM are proud to do 27701. We can do 27001 and a few other standards that we're well known for across the world. We have over 20,000 clients worldwide in every continent. 9001, 14,001 environmental, 45,001 is all about sustainability and risk mitigation. And then your information standards, which is 27,001, 20,001 for IT managed services, 27701, and 22301, which is huge right now, which is business continuity for business resiliency and sustainability. So thank you very much for listening to the presentation, and we'll now turn it back over.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John. So as stated, we have Paul Fitterer here, who's going to be addressing the questions that you guys have. So the first question we have, Paul, is where and how does your ISO fit into another major ISO certification?
It fits in. Each of the ISO certifications are in the new versions that are coming out in each of the standards are being fit to a 10-clause format, and each of the standards for a clause 4 and 5 and 6 are standard across each of the ISO standards. So when you talk about where does one ISO standard fit in relationship to another, basically what happens now is that all of the redundancy that used to be necessary for an organization that had multiple standards is being removed. And just basically the differentiator between each of the standards is placed in clause number 8, which is the operations clause. So if you have one standard in using the 10-clause format, you can easily replicate that format as you adopt newer standards.
Terrific. Thank you. Our next question is, after ISO certification, is there any follow on checks or monitoring?
Monitoring is required by the standard on an annual basis. And so there's what's referred to as a third party, an independent auditor will come in on an annual basis and recertify your system. The initial certification audits 100% of all of the requirements of the standard. The annual surveillance audits are only required to audit 1/3 of the standards, of the requirements. So over a 3-year period, if you're using the same auditing firm, you'll have the complete standard basically re-audited over that 3-year period.
All right, perfect. So that is our time for IMSM. Big thank you to John and Paul. We really appreciate your time. If you have any questions for John and Paul, you can send them through to us, and we will submit them to John and Paul after the webinar. So thank you again so much, guys. Fantastic presentation. And next we'll be hearing from Olivera Zatezalo. And so John and Paul, I'm just going to get you guys to turn off your mics and webcams if you can. And Olivia, are you here with us? There you are. Hi, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Can you hear?
Yeah, absolutely. We can hear you. And we're going to let you take things off.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you guys for joining us. So I'm here to talk to you about artificial intelligence, security and privacy protection. And before I do that, I would like to take a moment to tell you about Huawei global presence. So let me just see, how do I go to the next slide? Okay, perfect. It's all working. Great. So I'm just gonna adjust this. Do you guys see the slides? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can see your slides.
And you can see my slides. Perfect.
Yes.
For some reason, they are appearing blue on my screen. Okay, it's good. Now it's good. Okay, so as I said, I would like to take a moment to tell you about Huawei global presence. So Huawei is a global leader providing ICT infrastructure and smart devices. We have a presence and we operate in over 170 countries, and we have over 200,000 employees. 80,000 of these employees are working in R&D. So R&D is very important for us. We are number 68 in Interbrand top 100 best global brands, and we are, sorry guys, did you just remove my slides? Okay, perfect, thank you. And we are 61 in a global 500, Fortune Global 500. So in Canada, we've been for over 12 years, and we've been serving all Canadian carriers. We are very proud to say that over the last 12 years, we never had any cybersecurity breach, and we helped Canada build #1 mobile network in the G7 countries. So moving on, I would like to talk to you about the 5G networks and the age of intelligence and artificial intelligence that we are entering into. So 5G is on. 5G networks are being rolled around the globe. And with the 5G rollout, we're going to see dramatic changes, and our life will never be the same. So what you're going to start seeing around us, you're going to see a number of different devices, small devices, sensor being installed around us to support these artificial intelligence systems. These sensors are going to be connected. They're going to be connected through the network, and they're going to be sensing the data from the environment. They're going to be sending this data back to the big data databases, and they're going to be powering AI, new algorithms and applications. These big data databases are going to be sending this intelligence and knowledge back to the devices. So these devices are going to become intelligent. So with these implementations, we are truly entering an intelligent world. So when it comes to discussing artificial intelligence, there is no really a unified definition of what AI is. So there are some basic characteristics that I would like to use to help you understand what artificial intelligence is all about. So AI is able to handle complex goals. It is able to collect and combine different amounts of data. It is able to extract information and knowledge and learn autonomously, and it's able to make automated decisions at the different levels. So instead of AI definitions that is now accepted globally, we would like to stick to these basic characteristics of AI. So now moving on, I would like to talk to you about how AI is going to be used. So we are going to see an internal enterprise applications that are going to use AI to improve work efficiencies. Also, we are going to see a number of applications in different vertical industries. We're going to see AI applications being used to improve automation, being used to enhance capabilities, and being used to inspire innovation. So we are going to see a number of vertical industries using AI, like, for example, smart agriculture, Industry 4.1, smart cities, digital banking, smart grid, smart transportation. So in order to establish a sound artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and privacy framework, we really need to understand the different roles that people can play in an AI reference architecture. So we actually categorize them in 4 categories. So first category of different AI role is a data collectors. So we gonna have a role of people who are integrating information from multiple sources and who are cleansing the data and they're actually placing them into big data databases. So second category is a solution provider. So these solution providers are developing AI solutions, or they're using AI technologies to develop application systems. So in this category, we're going to see 3 different subcategories. So first, you're going to see vendors who are developing these basic layers of chips or these sensors that we're going to be using to sense the environment. Then we are going to see a technology layer, and this layer is machine deep learning framework or natural language processing, computer vision, stuff like that. And on the top of that, in this solution provider layer, we are going to see an application layer. So these are all the applications or AI products that people are going to be developing, online services and mobile applications. Next category of different roles is developers, so deployers. So these deployers are companies or organizations who are going to start deploying these AI solutions. So we're going to see backroom operations or front of the house services being offered as AI solutions. And last but not least, consumers and customers, a very important category. We all have a responsibility to understand the products we are using, and we all have responsibility to understand how do we protect our data rights. So next one, that topic that I want to discuss with you is challenges. So with this, we see a number of different challenges. We see technical reliability challenges, we see societal application challenges, and we see legal requirements and responsibilities and challenges in these areas. So just quickly, I'm going to review with you few examples of few use cases for each of these challenges. For example, technical reliability challenges, they're going to come from the deep neural networks and their lack of robustness. Then complex systems such as DNN, they have a risk of not being transparent. We're not going to be able to clearly explain the decision that they're being made. So this is another risk. And the third category of risk with the technical reliability is a huge volumes of data that may originate from the diverse operating environment. So I'm going to give you one example just to make sure you guys understand what I'm talking about. For example, in the field of autonomous driving, evasion attack can lead to traffic offenses or even accidents. So that would be one of the example of technical challenges. Moving on to societal applications, here we have a challenge that the lack of management and control over the process of AI may lead to AI being misused. Data quality issues may lead to biased or unfair judgment, and application developers and deployers who have insufficient knowledge and capabilities may misuse AI systems or cause security and privacy incidents. So an example here would be credit scores for new immigrants. So let's say if you're a new immigrant to Canada and your English is not very proficient or good, your poor credit score may be associated with your lack of English speaking skills. So that's one example. And then the next area that I would like to talk about is legal requirements and responsibilities. So right now, there are no laws or regulations, such as regulations on autonomous driving and algorithm accountability. So, for example, we had an autonomous driving vehicle killed a pedestrian like a few months ago, I think in the United States, and that led to heated discussions about supervision and legal responsibility of autonomous driving. So these are some challenges that we are facing with AI implementation. So moving on, it's becoming very clear and evident that we need AI security and privacy governance. And in order to implement security and privacy governance, there are 7 aspects that we have to take into consideration. So first one would be system security and controllability. So systems security requirements, stability, and adaptability is very important. Then, as I mentioned previously, transparency and traceability also very important, to be totally transparent and trace the decision made in the AI system. Privacy protection, we have to understand and protect the privacy data of the users and the consumers of the AI system. We have to be fair. We have to manage the data, make sure we understand where are we getting the data, how do we combine and integrate this data. We have to hire people who understand what they're doing, so competence is very important. And we have to deploy objective assurance of these systems. So this is the AI security and privacy governance framework that we are proposing based on the lessons learned around the globe. So as you can see, and I'm sure most people are familiar with the cybersecurity policies and governance model that we implemented in corporations around the globe. So right now, with these new AI implementations, we believe that we have to have 4 different categories of cybersecurity and privacy policies. So first category would be security and privacy protection policies. So this is not new to us. I think most of organizations have them right now. So we have to have a policy around strategy, general cybersecurity policy, general privacy policy protection, data sharing and control policy. Also, organization and personnel, we need to clearly specify and have a policy regarding organization settings, certifications related to the full stack solutions, and awareness and capability policy is very important. We have to educate and make sure our employees have a security and privacy awareness training. Process and product design. We have to have policies regarding risk analysis, requirements being built into processes and products, and design specification. On technology side again, very important to have a number of different policies. For example, application security, we are very familiar with that one. Trustworthy framework, trustworthy operator, and trustworthy chip. So these are the policies regarding the supply chain and the vendors we are acquiring this data from. And then policies about testing and verification. So moving on, the next slide is about roles and responsibilities. So we talked about different roles. So I talked about data collector, solution provider, deployers, and consumers role Now what I want to stress out that each of these roles have their responsibilities, their sole responsibilities, and also we all have a shared responsibilities. So on this slide, I'm talking about shared responsibility being data governance, privacy protection, and competence. And then when it comes to the responsibility of each and every role, we'll talk about that more later in September, but it's very important to understand that each of these roles comes with a very specific sole responsibility. And in conclusion, what I would like to say is that from the definition of AI to scope and activities in AI, we aim to clearly define AI security and privacy from the source. So AI security and privacy, it's not a single company or single country issue. We have to have sufficient resources to tackle increasingly complex security and privacy risk and threat in AI. And we call on all governments, standard organization, users, and the industry to reach a consensus and work together to develop new codes of conduct, standards, and laws to enhance AI security and privacy protection. So with this, I would like to wrap up my presentation. As I said, I hope to get an opportunity to talk about this more in September, and I would like to open the floor for questions.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Olivera. Great presentation. We do have a question here. Can you give advice to non-technical leaders who are tasked with making big decisions around AI and client privacy?
Before making a decision to implement any AI solution, I think it's very important to do cybersecurity and privacy risk assessment. So you need to understand where are you going to be using this data. You need to understand your risks. You need to understand from the privacy perspective, what are the private data and what are the crown jewels that you are trying to protect, and then build the controls around that. So I think this initial analysis is a starting point. And actually, if you don't have enough experience, given the importance of this area, my advice would always be go to professionals. Go to people who have experience, who implemented this in Canada, in North America, around the world, and make sure you learn from their mistakes, because this is very important area. We don't want to be making mistakes in this space.
Terrific. Our next question is, how would AI know about a customer's English speaking skills?
Oh, so this is actually a machine learning. So let's say I mentioned, if you're new to Canada, if your English is not good enough, you're going to have a presence. Let's say when you're talking to the banks and you give them permission to actually record your conversation, the algorithms can judge your speaking. So actually, the algorithms are going to assess your answers, and because your English is not good enough, your answers may not be accurate. So basically, to answer the question, AI is not going to know about your poor English skills, but the data you provided by you to the bank or to any other financial institution may not be accurate because of your poor English skills. So you may not be judged. Your credit score can be poor because of your English skills and not because of really your credit score.
All right, terrific. So we have time for one last question. What standards or certifications does Huawei use to communicate its application of privacy practices?
Huawei is based on standards, actually. Cybersecurity and privacy is very important to us. So we are using ISO, all these standards that I mentioned in the previous presentation, we are using across the organization. We have different milestones. We also have e-privacy certification, and we are following GDPR around the globe, not just in Europe, but around the globe. So we are very big on cybersecurity and privacy certifications. And I can follow up and send you the list, but I believe you can also find it on our website. but I think over 240 cybersecurity and privacy certification we do currently have for our products and services.
All right, terrific. Well, that's all the time that we have. For any questions you have for Olivera, please submit them in the Q&A, and we will be happy to send them to her afterwards. Again, Olivera, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation.
Thank you so much.
So honored to have you join us.
Thank you.
All right, so we will be hearing from our last speaker now, and this is Maciej from PwC, who's talking about being proactive about risk and embracing responsible AI. So Maciej, if you want to join us and turn on your webcam and your mic. That's okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Certainly, thank you to John and Olivera as well for the wonderful presentations. Again, just to confirm, you could hear me, you could see me okay?
Yes, you are. Okay. Good to go.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for having me today. It's certainly a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about AI and privacy. First and foremost, I hope everyone and their loved ones are staying safe and healthy during these difficult times. But certainly on a little bit of a lighter note, I'm here to talk to you about how we can be proactive about AI risks, including privacy, of course, by embracing responsible AI. And what that means is that we're ingraining factors such as security, fairness, governance, as well as ethics within our organization and ensuring that they're deeply rooted within our AI projects, certainly well before any use cases are identified, any designs are drawn up, or certainly any solutions actually going into production. All right, so before I go into the specifics around mitigating AI risks, I just want to start off by putting things into perspective. In a 2017 PwC study, it was estimated that AI can actually contribute up to $16 trillion to the global economy within the next 10 years. And just so that doesn't sound nepotistic, a similar study done by McKinsey in 2018 actually tagged that number at a slightly more modest 13 trillion, which is actually more than the current output of China and India combined. So pretty striking numbers if you think about the next decade that's ahead. And the economic impact of AI are namely going to be driven by two key pillars. So one is going to be the productivity gains, which are roughly around 7 million. That's things like automation, robots, as well as assisted intelligence. And then finally, we have increased and more personalized consumer demand, which is going to be about 10 million. So that's going to be personalized content, AI-enhanced products and services. Now, despite the prevalence that AI likely already has in your current day-to-day lives, I just want everybody on the call to pause for a second and really think about what the next 10 years may look like once that $9 trillion of so-called consumption comes into play. So if you look at the slide here, you'll see that 2020, we're only at the starting point of that. And really, that's going to sort of take off in the next decade or so. So with that said, I hope everybody can obviously appreciate that there's going to be increased risks around the use of AI, as well as more increased privacy concerns that may come up as companies certainly who develop these AI solutions gain more and more access to people's data. That's obviously going to feed into these algorithms and these AI tools. Okay. Going to the next slide. Quickly, I know we probably have quite a diverse audience on the call, so I just wanted to showcase that no industry is really immune from the far-reaching grasps of AI and the use cases associated with it. So what you see here on your screen is a breakdown of AI adoption maturity in the near term, the midterm, and certainly the long term across 8 different industry sectors. Immediately, you'll notice that financial services, technology and communications, as well as retail are the front runners, while healthcare is actually an industry that expects to see more of a longer term play due to barriers specifically associated with overcoming privacy concerns with obviously sensitive health data. Now, in regard to the use cases, just quickly going through this list, healthcare, we're looking at AI to support patient diagnoses. Automotive, we're looking at autonomous fleets or ride sharing or self-driving cars. Financial services, this is where you get into personalized financial planning and AI-driven algorithms that are going to do portfolio assessments and things like that. Transportation and logistics, we're talking about autonomous trucking and delivery. Tech and communications, customized content creation. So think of the way that Netflix and YouTube interact with you on a day-to-day basis. We'll certainly see more of that in the next decade. Retail, personalized design and production, things like anticipating customer segmentation and segments, as well as forecasting for demand. Then we go to energy. A good example here is smart metering. So actually AI using the data that's available from your home to actually help more efficient grid operations and things such as that. And then finally, we have manufacturing, which is supply chain, AI-driven supply chains, as well as product optimization. So you could see, and I think, you could see that there's quite a bit of opportunity, quite a bit of use cases here, and really that no industry is immune from the far-reaching grasp of this technology. Now, as we go into the next slide, every year for the past several years, PwC Research, which is our global center of excellence for market research that's located in London in our UK headquarters, conducts a survey of over 1,000 C-suite and executive level leaders to gather their opinions on AI. And within this past study that we did this past year, there were 5 key findings, and you see them on the right side of the slide there. One is to get on board with boring AI, so really to simplify the use cases. Another one is to rethink upskilling. The third, and one that's obviously most relevant to privacy and security, is to adopt responsible AI. And we'll get what that means in a sec. We'll get to what that means in a second. The fourth would be to operationalize AI and integrate it at scale. So to make sure that it's throughout the organization. And then fifth is to reinvent your business model. So not just to focus on human and physical assets that are within an organization, but actually to start leveraging AI's cognitive assets as well, right? And one striking theme from this survey that we actually did, and perhaps the worst news, is that this year's survey was that the business and tech leaders seem a little too complacent about AI's real risks, right? And certainly, again, privacy is one of those key considerations. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through the next few slides. But certainly the good news is that there are ways to proceed with confidence to make sure that we're ingraining responsible and ethical procedures as we start to develop these solutions within our organizations. Now, just to dig a bit deeper into that study and into that data, so of those business leaders that have been surveyed, many seem rather unfazed, as I mentioned. So approximately 85% of all executives that were surveyed that are actively working with AI said that their companies are actually taking sufficient measures to protect against AI's real risks. However, this also suggests that there's slightly like an underappreciation for the true challenges and the level of effort actually needed to responsibly capitalize on AI. And when it comes to backing words with actions, such as implementing controls around data and decisions that are being made, certainly there's still a long way to go. And in fact, when we look clearer at the results, you'll see that only about a third, which is that pink bar along the bottom, of respondents have actually tackled or fully tackled the risks related to data, AI models, outputs, as well as reporting. So considering that there's a growing public concern over issues such as bias in the algorithms or facial recognition tools or sensitivity about and privacy about data, that's absolutely not good enough, right? So I think the question that is on everybody's mind is how can we actually ensure that our organizations are more proactive about risks, privacy concerns, and breaches of trust associated with AI? And the answer certainly lies in responsible AI. So while you can't fully eliminate these risks, you can certainly mitigate them as socially responsible developers, data scientists, AI aficionados, and business and IT sponsors. But what does that actually look like, right? It's making sure that we're integrating the tools and the controls necessary within our solutions, within our organizations to actually address these critical areas. And also making sure that it cascades throughout the workforce as well, right? So making sure that the end users and sort of the people who are managing these systems are well aware of these 5 dimensions that you see here on your screen. And again, those dimensions are making sure we have robust governance, we have solutions that are interpretable and explainable, we have solutions that are free of bias or mitigating bias as much as they can, solutions that are robust and secure and ensuring privacy, and ones that are adhering to ethical standards as well as regulatory requirements as well. So really what I'm trying to showcase here is rather than just focusing on the privacy element, it takes a holistic approach to making sure that these solutions are robust and fruitful for organizations as they come into deployment. Just to go quickly through each of those five, certainly the foundation for AI is, or for responsible AI is end-to-end enterprise governance. So at the highest level, basically, your AI governance should be able to allow the organization to answer questions such as who's accountable, how does AI align with the business strategy, what processes could be modified to improve the outputs, and things like, are the results consistent from our AI solutions? Certainly a proper AI governance foundation provides organizations with the ability to answer these types of questions. Going on to the next, sooner or later, all businesses and organizations that are using AI will certainly need to explain to various stakeholders how and why particular decisions were made. Obviously, these explanations need to be tailored to specific audiences. This includes regulators, data scientists, business sponsors, and end consumers as well. A lack of interpretability in AI is not only frustrating for end users, as you could imagine, but it also exposes organizations to increased operational, financial, and reputational risks, which is something that certainly no organization would like to see today. And certainly to instill trust in AI systems and to make sure that we can take them from being this nebulous black box concept into one that's more of a glass box, we want to make sure we're developing algorithms that are easy to be able to look under the hood and see what these models are doing. Ones that are able to explore the data that's used to actually train them, and sort of expose the reasoning behind each decision that's made. So that's certainly a critical element of developing a robust end-to-end AI solution within, or set of solutions within your organization. The third pillar of responsible AI deals with what's often considered one of the biggest risks associated with AI, which is bias and fairness. You could obviously appreciate that the examples here are plentiful. So for instance, there's racial bias in the criminal justice system, there's gender discrimination in the hiring process. We want to make sure that our algorithms and our tools driven by AI are actually eliminating or at least mitigating these types of entry points into our algorithms. So although eliminating bias is obviously quite more of a complex task than it may appear, it is possible to tune AI systems to mitigate this bias and certainly enable decisions that are not only as fair as possible, but also comply with an organization's code of ethics, as well as following, for instance, things like anti-discrimination regulations. So nonetheless, it's certainly a complex element that warrants more than 15 minutes in and of itself to discuss. So why don't we move on to the next one and look at security and robustness. So obviously, this is perhaps most relevant to the theme of today's panel, which is robustness and security. Again, the reason I shied away from talking only about this pillar and sort of how AI relates to privacy was to intentionally showcase that we need a broader and more holistic approach to AI that organizations need to adopt. To be effective and reliable, AI systems need to be resilient, secure, and safe. When we talk about resilience, we talk about next generation AI systems that are increasingly self-aware, that are able to detect built-in or able to detect false or inaccurate or unethical decisions. When we talk about security, we're talking about mitigating potentially catastrophic outcomes of AI data or systems being compromised or hijacked by possible breaches in the algorithms or the systems. And then above all, we want to just make sure that these systems are safe for the people whose lives they affect, whether that's users of the AI or subjects of the actual AI-enabled decisions. And obviously, this is critical in areas such as healthcare, autonomous vehicles, as well as connected workers, such as those in manufacturing applications. Next, when we go into bias and fairness, last but not least, we want to make sure that organizations are striving to develop, implement, and use AI solutions that are both morally responsible, but also legal and they're certainly legal and ethically defensible. Over the past few years, more than 70 documents have actually been published in this area to describe relevant ethical principles for AI. So one such example, which is probably quite prevalent, is the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI which was a document prepared and commissioned by the EU in 2018 that obviously touches on this point. Further to that, there's numerous different organizing bodies that have been set up just to tackle this one issue around, is AI legal and ethical? And of course, that ties into things such as privacy, such as security, such as who has access to what data, what are the implications of if the data gets into the wrong hands, and so on and so forth. And certainly by contextualizing the ethical considerations, organizations may be able to identify the ethical implications of their AI solutions, as well as relevant principles that should be taken into account when designing these types of solutions. And I think further to that, organizations must also monitor the regulatory environment within which they operate. One example is a white paper that was brought forth by the Vector Institute, which is a leading AI research institute here based out of Toronto. It was a white paper on the implications of AI to the financial services industry. And so that was a document prepared for OSFI, which is the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, sort of giving it a heads up of what we might expect to see in the next few years to come. Finally, I hope, we're running close on time here. I hope I've been able to provide some insights into how it's certainly our responsibility to make sure that our solutions are robust, that they're responsible, and that they're ethical, that they're making sure they're secure, private, etc. As AI practitioners, end users, and sort of stakeholders within our organizations, we need to make sure that, first and foremost, these solutions are ethically sound and comply with regulations in all aspects. Secondly, that they're underpinned by a robust foundation as well as end-to-end governance. And third, that they're supported by strong performance pillars, which include things like bias, interpretability, robustness, and security. And sort of with that in mind, I wanted just to end by asking you all if you and your organizations are ready for AI. We at PwC offer a responsible AI diagnostic, which certainly you can log into, take a quick survey and see how well your organizations are actually along the AI maturity curve. Sort of lets you sort of gauge how you compare against your peers as well as other organizations within your and adjacent industries. So certainly feel free to log on to that site and take that responsible AI diagnostic and see whether or not your organization is ready for artificial intelligence. And last but not least, the academic in me certainly wouldn't let you go without assigning you all some homework and some take-home reading. We wanted just to direct you to some further reading from PwC that's been made available over the past few years. One is one that was done in 2017 on the far left, Sizing the Prize, sort of gives you some insight into that $16 trillion opportunity. The next one is the impact of automation and AI on the long-term international platform or landscape. And then finally, PwC's Responsible AI Toolkit, which is an innovative and industry-leading approach to designing, developing, and adopting these responsible and ethical AI solutions. Once again, I just wanted to end off by saying thank you. Sorry for the troubles at the start of the call. Hope everything's been fine since, but hopefully I've been able to give you all some perspective into not only the size of the prize that we're actually dealing with. So again, we're just seeing the start of it, I think, right now, but it's certainly going to get much larger and much more prevalent in our day-to-day lives, which is going to warrant further investment in security and measures to make sure that our algorithms and our solutions are secure and private. Second, wanted just to touch on, the 2020 AI predictions report that we put forward, as well as 5 priorities that are associated with that. One of the key ones being responsible AI, making sure that those solutions are robust and, again, mitigating concerns such as privacy. And then third, just a quick note on, perhaps leaving you with some self-reflection and assessing whether or not your organizations are actually adopting and endeavoring upon responsible AI solutions, as this is quite an exciting and innovative technology. So I certainly look forward to staying connected. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect and continue the relationship, answer any questions if you have them at a future time, or certainly now, sort of at the end of this call as well. So thank you again, and looking forward to connecting.
All right, thank you so much, Maciej. We do have time for one question. And our question today are, what are some risks of adopting black box AI systems?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that's actually the risks are quite broad, right? So you look at a number of different risks. When you have a black box AI solution, it's quite dangerous because you're never really understanding what's going on under the hood. So you're exposing your organization to an algorithm that is going to be potentially making decisions that, like I mentioned, might not be complying with its code of ethics, might quite frankly be illegal, might be making decisions that is going to, again, expose the organization to financial, operational, or reputational risks, and further, and more prominently, is going to potentially impact people's lives, right? So if we look at a solution like a self-driving car, if that's a black box that's being designed that nobody has insight into how it's working, are you really feeling comfortable to put that on the road and potentially expose people to, car accidents or things like that? So you certainly want to make sure that these black box solutions that are being developed and that not many people understand are being opened up and certainly exposed to understanding what are the driving algorithms, what type of data is being used, what type of risks and what type of implications are there with using this type of combination of tools to develop this solution. So certainly the idea is we take that black box concept, we're going to throw it out, and we're going to start to develop solutions that are more readily understandable, explainable, robust, secure, and so on and so forth.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maciej. We really appreciate you joining us. Fantastic presentation. And that is it for us today, folks. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you to our amazing speakers for their awesome presentations. Again, a link for the recording of the webinar will be sent to everyone after, as well as any of the presentations and or contact information from our speakers if they are willing to share them. If you have any last minute questions you'd like to be sent to speakers, please submit them now, and we will take those down and send them to the speakers. Join us next week for the next installment of the Big Data and AI webinar series. And we're going to be talking about designing a successful data platform. This will take place at Thursday, April 30th at 2 p.m. So thank you all again. Thank you to our speakers, and we look forward to joining our audience members again next Thursday.